Today's video is brought to you by creativesdothis.com. It's a quiet winter night in Melbourne, Australia. A young man stands outside a modest home, checking his phone for directions. He's nervous but smiling. His date is waiting for him inside. He doesn't know this yet, but she's about to tell him something that should have made him leave right then and there. But you know what they say about curiosity. Inside, the house feels still, like the very walls around them are holding their breath. A single lamp glows warmly against the pale walls, and on the couch sits Jamie Dolheguy, 18 years old, with wide, childlike eyes and a small but uncertain smile. The man sits beside her. They talk and laugh awkwardly. He's being kind and gentle, and as of yet, he has no reason to think that anything is wrong. Until that is, she looks straight at him and says something that freezes him in place. "I think I'm a psychopath." She says this like a statement of fact. She doesn't appear to be joking. It's like she's testing him to see if he'll actually believe her. He lets out a nervous laugh, but she doesn't laugh back. That moment lingers, heavy and confusing. Then she smiles again and says softly, "It's okay." He doesn't truly know what all of this means, not yet at least. But what happened next would shock the entire country. The young woman later said, "I knew it was going to happen." But how did things actually reach this point? How did an ordinary night between two strangers become one of the most haunting true crime cases in Australia's history? To understand that, we need to truly understand who they both were before everything went wrong. By the way, this is Dark Case, and you can call me Jack. I bring you rare and unseen true crime cases, as well as other things that you may later regret knowing, with multiple uploads every single week. So if all of that sounds like your kind of thing, then make sure you join the Dark Case family now by hitting subscribe and turning all notifications on. And now for today's silly little question. And I don't know why I'm talking about organs so much this week, but if you required a life-saving organ transplant, but the only organ available was from the world's most evil serial killer, would you accept it? Let me know down in the comments. All of your support's over on Patreon, as well as right here via channel memberships on YouTube are so appreciated, and I really can't thank you all enough. However, of course I'm going to say it, thank you. But now, on with the video. Before this tragedy took over the headlines of Australia, there was Maulin Rathod. He was 24 years old, an international student from India now living in Melbourne. He was quiet, focused, always smiling. Friends described him as a jolly person. They said that he loved cricket and loved his studies. And more than anything, he loved to make his parents proud. Maulin had moved to Australia a few years earlier in order to study accountancy. For his parents, Hiran and Jagruti, it really was a dream come true. Their only child, now building a future in a country that he had admired since he was a little boy. Back home in India, his mother remembered how he would sit at a computer for hours, just looking at photos of Melbourne's skyline. He'd tell her, "One day, I'll be there." And when he finally arrived, he still made sure to call home every few days, just to tell them that he was doing okay, to assure them that he was studying hard, and that life was good. By mid-2018, Maulin was balancing classes and work. He'd built a small circle of friends, and he was the kind of person who helped others before himself, always polite and always calm with others. But like many other young adults living far from home, he could also get a little lonely too. His friends said that he started to talk about dating, that he wanted to meet someone kind and someone genuine. So one night he downloaded a dating app called Plenty of Fish. He didn't think much of it, just a way to meet new people, to try some new things. And that's when he saw her, a young woman with a bright smile and a simple profile. Her name was Jaime. They exchanged a few messages. She told him that she was new to dating too, and that she really just wanted company. He told her, "We'll do whatever you want." It was the kind of reassuring thing that someone gentle may say in order to make the other person feel safe. And so they agreed to meet at her place in Sunbury, a quiet suburb northwest of Melbourne. This video is sponsored by Creatives Do This, a platform that I've helped to launch that features real interviews with real artists, candle makers, musicians and creatives of all kinds who are making it work. Right now we're looking for creatives to feature, so if you've made money from your creativity, whether it's a full-time career or a new side hustle, and you want to share how you did it, we'd love to hear your story. It's just a short text-based interview and it takes around 10 minutes. And in return you get free lifetime access to everything that the platform becomes. Plus your work will get featured to inspire others and to build your brand. Hit the link in the description or the pinned comment to take the quick interview and to become one of the 100 founding members. There's now less than 50 spaces left. www.creativesdothis.com. Maulin didn't hesitate. He texted his friends and said that he was going to meet someone. He was even smiling when he left his apartment. He had absolutely no reason to suspect that something was wrong. No reason to think that the woman waiting for him was actually deep in her own psychological turmoil. And as Maulin was driving through the dark streets towards Sunbury, Jamie Dolheguy was sitting alone in her room, just staring at her computer screen. When detectives later looked at the digital forensics in this case, they couldn't believe the insanity that the hard drive held. Jamie Dolheguy wasn't a monster. Well, debatable. At least she didn't start that way. When she was a little girl, teachers remembered a shy, quiet child who just wanted to be liked. Someone who drew pictures of animals and said that she wanted to work with them one day. Her home life though, it wasn't safe, and it hadn't been for a long time. Jamie's childhood was filled with neglect and maltreatment, things that were so severe that it left permanent scars in her mind. And so by the age of 10, the state stepped in. She was removed from her parents and placed into care. Doctors would later say that by then, she had already shown signs of something deep and something fractured. They called it a profound personality disorder. Jamie was extremely impulsive. She could be angry one minute, tearful the next, and then even back to happy. Sometimes she would hurt herself and then beg for forgiveness. One doctor described her mind as a torrent of terrifying thoughts and emotions. From age 14, she lived in a supported home with 2 full-time carers. That meant round-the-clock supervision, because for her, being alone just wasn't safe. Her mental health team documented over 100 hospitalizations for things that she had done to herself. And yet, despite all of this, they said that she still could be kind, that she was gentle and often childlike. People around her often described 2 versions of Jamie. There was the sweet one, and then there was the one that she herself called the demon. In one social media post, she wrote, "Sometimes when no one is looking, my demon comes out to play. I try to fight her, but she gets stronger." Another message said, "She says life hurts, that there's no point fighting it. She won't ever let anyone stop her. If they do, she'll hurt them." Her carers saw these as teenage cries for help, but they were used to her volatility and the constant swings between sadness and rage. But then, in early 2018, everything changed. Jamie turned 18, and with that, the system that had been caring for her up to that point now had to step back. The 24-hour supervision ended, and her case was transitioned to independent living. Her carers tried to protest. They said that she wasn't ready for this, that she could not be left alone. But the funding ran out, and the support ended. And now Jamie was suddenly living by herself in this small house in Sunbury. She was now properly alone for the first time in her life, and without the structure of her group home, her condition only worsened. Her mental state spiraled downwards into chaos. She stopped taking her medications, she stopped going to appointments, and she began telling people that she had bad temptations. In the weeks leading up to July of 2018, Jamie did reach out to her caseworkers. In one text message to them, she said, "I feel really sick with bad thoughts. I want to call the police, but they won't believe me." The reply that she received was short, just 3 words. Trust your judgment. At the time, no one realised how dangerous that moment was. Jamie really began to believe that she had 2 personalities. The nice me, as she called it, and the other one. In her own words, one's mean, one's nice. They are both me. The other one I'm terrified of. That other side was violent, it was unpredictable, and it was dangerously impulsive. And when she was alone, without medication, the other side began to take control. She started spending more and more time online, visiting forums about dark fantasies, about violent impulses, and games of power. Her search history became a diary of thoughts that she couldn't say out loud. How to choke someone safely, how long until someone passes out, how to get away with it. Each of these searches was another warning. Each one was a quiet alarm bell ringing away in the background, but now nobody was there to hear it. And then on July the 23rd, 2018, Jamie received a message from a stranger on a dating app. His name was Maulin. He was kind, curious, and trusting, and he had no idea that the girl he was about to meet was teetering between 2 worlds, and the countdown to oblivion was now completely out of his hands. It's early evening in Sunbury, just northwest of Melbourne. A cold wind moves through the quiet streets. Inside a small home, Jamie Dolheguy sits alone, knees pulled to her chest, eyes fixed on her phone. On the screen is a dating profile. The young man's face, Maulin. They've only exchanged a few messages, but for Jamie, it's enough. Earlier that day, we know her mind was already spiraling. Her Google searches were getting more and more depraved. "I'm going to kill someone tonight for fun," followed by 10 steps to commit a murder and get away with it. And remember, by this point, she'd already sent a text message to one of her carers. It was a really loud cry for help, but that carer told her to trust your judgment, and so she did just that. She trusted her own broken mind. Her phone lit up. Maulin had sent another message. He told her that he was now on his way. He said he was a little nervous, but he was excited. She had told him that she liked choke play, that it was just a fantasy, and she said that she wanted to try something new. To Maulin, it probably sounded strange, possibly exciting, but ultimately harmless. They even talked about safety, a signal that he could use if it all got too much. He would just tap and she would stop. At least that was the plan that was spoken aloud. At around 9 p.m, Maulin parked outside her home. He sent one more message to say that he'd arrived, and then she walked out to meet him. She smiled and he followed her inside. The house was quiet, warm, and the air was still. They talked for a while, awkwardly at first, and then Jamie looked at him and said softly, almost casually, "I think I'm a psychopath." He smiled nervously, unsure if she was joking. He said, "That's okay." To us, this is such an obvious warning, but in the heat of the moment, it seems that it was completely lost, and what happened next unfolded like something from a horror film. According to her later statement, Jamie then moved behind him. She told him to relax, that it was all part of the game, and Maulin put his trust in her. He leaned forward slightly. He even reminded her, "If I tap, you let go." She nodded, and then slowly, she placed her arms around him. Seconds passed, and then she tightened. At first, it might have felt playful, but Maulin decided that this wasn't for him. He tapped once, and then again, but Jamie didn't let go. "I just went tighter and tighter," she told investigators later. Then I whispered in his ear, "It's okay." When her arms grew tired and began to ache, she reached for something nearby, the cord from a personal massage device, quite possibly made by Hitachi, something that she kept on her bedside table. "I told him I was sorry," she said quietly, and just choked him with the cord. Within just minutes, Maulin's time on this earth was now over. Jamie sat in silence beside him. She didn't panic or try to hide. She didn't try to run. Instead, she picked up her phone and dialed the police. When officers answered the phone, they actually already knew who they were dealing with. Jamie, with all her problems throughout her life, as well as her spiraling behaviour, was no stranger to the police. She said, "I strangled someone. He didn't seem scared. He's on my bed. It feels good. I don't want to be a killer." The line went quiet for a few seconds. Then she added something that really sealed her fate even harder. "I knew I was going to kill him if he came over." When police arrived, they found Jamie sitting on the floor, waiting. If anything, they said she looked a little relieved. And later that night, in her recorded interview, she told detectives, "One's mean, one's nice. They are both me." Jamie told police that she had warned Maulin. She told him that she wanted to be stopped, that she didn't want it to go this far, but that nobody had listened. But remember, she also said that it felt good. But not because she wanted to do this again, but instead, finally someone would believe her. In her own words, "I knew I wasn't going to get better unless someone stopped me. I just didn't want to do it again." And in that moment, the young woman who had begged for help would now finally get it, but it came at the cost of another life. The courtroom was almost silent. Reporters, family members and onlookers all sat shoulder to shoulder, waiting to hear how a young woman who had warned everyone that she was dangerous would now finally be judged. Jamie Dolheguy sat at a defense table. She was dressed in black, her hair in pigtails. In front of her, colored pencils and paper. Throughout much of the trial, she drew small sketches, flowers, animals, shapes. The same thing she'd been doodling since she was a child. It was as if she was trying to escape the room that she was trapped in, due to the things that she herself had done. The prosecution went first. They said that Jamie knew exactly what she was doing, that she had planned the whole thing. She chose in advance the act of violence ultimately perpetrated, the prosecutor told the jury. She engaged him in a pretense of a game. He trusted her, and she never intended to stop. He reminded the court of her internet searches. "I'm going to kill someone tonight for fun. 10 steps to commit a murder and get away with it." Then, looking towards the jury, he said, "This was never a simple encounter from her point of view. Her plan was to harm this man. He was a means to an end." The defense, however, painted a very different picture. They didn't try and deny what she had done. In fact, they never tried to. Instead, they asked the jury to understand who Jamie actually was, and how she became that way. "Miss Dolheguy is not a murderer," her lawyer said softly. "She's a profoundly damaged young person, whose mind was a torrent of terrifying thoughts and emotions. Those thoughts, not intent, caused this tragedy." The defense described her history of neglect, trauma, and the years of constant care that then suddenly disappeared when she turned 18. She spoke about her dissociation, her delusions, her desperate messages asking for help. "She's not like you and me," her lawyer told the court. "She was raised without love, without safety, without trust. She lives in a world that terrifies her, and she has spent her entire life trying to contain it." Over several days, forensic psychiatrists testified. They all agreed on one thing. Jamie had a profound personality disorder. One doctor described her mind as a kind of chaotic storm. Another said she had a limited capacity for empathy. But even then, they said that she wasn't incapable of remorse, and that in her own fragmented way, she was sorry. After weeks of testimony, the jury reached their decision. They found her not guilty of murder, but guilty of manslaughter. The judge agreed that while she had planned the act, her mental illness had severely reduced her moral responsibility, and he told her, "You took the life of a person who had done nothing to harm or provoke you." One can only imagine the terror that he felt when he realized you are not going to let go. Then, in a softer tone, he added, "Your culpability is significantly reduced by your illness and the terrible deprivation you suffered as a child." The sentence, 9 years in prison. With time served, Jamie could have been eligible for parole in just over 3 years. As the judge finished reading, Jamie looked down at her hands, expressionless. In the gallery, Maulin's parents held each other and cried quietly. Outside the courthouse, his mother said, "He was our only child. We just hope no one else has to go through what we did." Inside the courtroom, the sketches that Jamie had been drawing now sat untouched. Small flowers, bright colours, a strange innocent contrast to the darkness that had actually brought her there. For Maulin's parents, time stopped on the day that their phone rang, thousands of miles away in India. They learned that their only son had passed away in a country that he had once called his dream. His mother later said, "When they told us, the earth moved from beneath our feet. It took 12 days for his body to be returned home, and when it finally arrived, she ran her hands through his hair for hours, unable to let go. We only had one child," she said. "We are alone." In Melbourne, the story made headlines across the country. People wanted to know, how could this have happened? How could a system see all the warning signs, but still fail to stop it? Because the obvious truth is, all of the signs were there. The messages, the online posts, the digital footprint, the desperate plea from that afternoon, and the fact that the police already knew who she was. She did reach out, but nobody came. Jamie's life had been defined by chaos. One psychiatrist said that she was grossly immature in her emotional development, a child trapped inside the mind of a young adult. Justice in this case is kind of a weird one. When two worlds collided, a young man who wanted love or fun, and a young woman who just wanted help, nothing good was going to happen that night. You have to wonder, when Jamie is released, will she now receive help or be left to do something else like this? Maulin's parents still light a candle for their son, the boy who chased his dream across the world, only to meet someone who turned his dream into a nightmare. If anyone ever tells me they're a psychopath, I think I know what to do. Be careful out there, and I'll see you soon.